let's talk about a huge paradox happening right now in one of the world's most advanced economies. You see, while Singaporean businesses are racing into the future, a massive chunk of their most valuable knowledge is literally stuck in the past, locked away in paper files. So today, we're going to unpack what this digital dividend is all about and how to unlock it. So let me ask you a question. What if your company's greatest asset, all its collective knowledge, its history, its data, isn't in some secure cloud, but it's just sitting in filing cabinets? You know, in a world that moves as fast as this one, that paper isn't really an asset anymore. It's actually a huge liability. And here's why that liability is becoming a massive problem. Just look at how we work now. Over 61%, almost 2/3 of companies in Singapore, are expanding remote work. Our teams are everywhere, but our most important information is stuck in one place. That creates this fundamental disconnect between a modern workforce and a totally outdated information system. Okay, so that brings us to our first section, where we're going to dive deep into the core of this challenge, what we're calling Singapore's digital dilemma. We call this whole dilemma the paper trap, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's when a company has these huge digital dreams, they want to be agile, data-driven, super efficient, but they're being held back by their dependence on physical paper. Honestly, it's like trying to win a Formula One race with the handbrake pulled the entire time. And the cost of this trap? Well, it's staggering. We all know regulatory compliance is expensive, but get this, an incredible 94% of that cost comes directly from the slow, manual, painful process of managing paper. That is a massive, and frankly, a totally avoidable business expense. But with every big challenge comes a pretty big opportunity. The market for software that solves this exact problem is projected to be worth almost $77 million by 2025. And that's just in Singapore. This shows you this isn't some small niche issue. It's a major area where businesses are investing and innovating. So, how do businesses actually break free? Well, that leads us right into Section 2, unlocking the paper prison. Here we're going to shift from looking at the problem to focusing on the strategic solution. Just look at the two worlds we're talking about here. On one side, you've got the old paper-based world, slow, expensive, and vulnerable to pretty much everything, from a fire to just misfiling a single document. And on the other side, you have the cloud, instant, secure, and accessible from absolutely anywhere. This is why making the switch isn't just a tech upgrade, it's a fundamental upgrade to your entire business model. So what's really pushing this change? Well, it boils down to four main forces. First, as we saw, the huge shift to hybrid work. Second, Singapore's really strict regulatory landscape, like the Personal Data Protection Act, the PDP, which dictates how companies have to handle our data. Third, the need to meet international standards. And fourth, honestly, the simple pursuit of a competitive edge. Okay, so that brings us to the how. In Section 3, we're going to look at the blueprint for what a top-tier digitization process actually looks like, moving from the theory to what happens in the real world. When we talk about enterprise-level solutions, we are talking about this kind of scale. The best providers in this space, they aren't just scanning a few documents here and there. No, these are industrial-strength operations, processing over 1 million pages every single day. That's the kind of capacity you need to really transform a large organization. The heart of this whole process is high-volume corporate scanning. And listen, we're not talking about that little desktop scanner in the corner of the office. This is about industrial-grade, precision digitization for supercritical sectors like finance and law, where a single misplaced decimal point could have massive consequences. And it goes way beyond standard paper. I mean, think about industries like manufacturing or construction. Specialized services can digitize gigantic engineering schematics, from a standard A4 page all the way up to those huge A0 blueprints, and preserve every single critical detail. This is highly specialized stuff. And that level of expertise is exactly why the best providers are trusted by institutions like the National Heritage Board. They use museum-grade non-contact scanning to preserve fragile, irreplaceable historical documents. And that same level of care and precision, it gets applied to all their clients' work. But here's the thing. Scanning the paper is only step one. The real power, the real magic, comes from what happens next. So in Section 4, we're going beyond the scan to explore the platform that turns all those digital files into intelligent, usable assets. And this is where you see the massive difference between a top-tier provider and, well, everyone else. We're talking decades more experience, 10 times the daily capacity, and a huge gap in accuracy. But notice that last point, data sovereignty. That's a rock-solid guarantee that all your sensitive data is processed and stored right here in Singapore, never sent offshore. For compliance, that is absolutely vital. Let's just focus on that accuracy point for a second, because it's everything. OCR, or optical character recognition, that's the tech that makes your scanned documents searchable. Now, an industry standard of 85 to 90% accuracy means that 1 out of every 10 words could be wrong. But at 99.9%, you have data you can actually trust. That gap is the difference between a useful tool and a really frustrating liability. So a modern platform builds on that foundation of accuracy. It starts with secure, Singapore-based hosting. Then it has to integrate seamlessly with the tools you already use, like your ERP software. After that, it uses AI to automatically classify documents and make everything searchable. And the whole system is built from the ground up to exceed local compliance laws like the PDPA. Which brings us to our final section, the digital dividend. This is the payoff. These are the measurable bottom-line results that you get from making this transformation. So what does this actually look like on the bottom line? Let's talk numbers. First up, cost. Clients see an average 75% reduction in document-related operational costs. We're talking printing, storage, all that stuff within the very first year. Next up, time. A 90% reduction in the time it takes to find a document. What used to take hours of digging through archives now takes just a few seconds. I mean, just imagine how much employee time that frees up for more valuable work. And what's the cumulative effect of all this? A jaw-dropping 300% improvement in overall workflow productivity and efficiency. That's not just a small improvement. That's a number that completely transforms a business. And look, these aren't just abstract numbers. For example, one major financial services firm right here in Singapore achieved that exact 300% improvement in their reporting efficiency, and they also cut their compliance-related labor costs by 85%. These are real, tangible results. So let's end with this question. In a world that is only getting faster and faster, what is the real cost of doing nothing? What vital insights, what competitive advantages, and what essential knowledge is your business leaving locked away on paper? The answer to that question could very well define your future.